Show you some enhancements to the BroadcastHub app, and the first thing I'm going to show you is to use some procedures. Okay, this is a pretty complicated piece of code, and we can kind of make it a little simpler by using abstraction and using procedures. And the first thing I'll do is I'm going to make a procedure called distribute the text or distribute the message. Okay, so I'm going to grab out a procedure and I'm going to call it distribute the message. Okay, and it's basically going to do what happens here when a text comes in that needs to be broadcast. I'm going to put these blocks into distribute the message, and then we'll have just one word, distribute the message, which does all that for us, and it'll kind of simplify the reading of this code. So if someone wants to change it or make some modifications, they can understand it better. Okay. Now this procedure is going to have a couple of parameters. So I'm going to drag in two parameters here. Okay. And I'm going to name them. One is going to be the message text. Okay. Okay, that's what's actually going to be distributed. And then we're also going to send in the number of the sender. Okay, just so we have that. Okay, so those are the two things that are going to happen. And what we're going to want to do is basically do all these blocks. So I'm going to grab these blocks. It's going to be a little tricky because these parameters are, these gets refer to these parameters up here. And we've got the same names here, but these are completely different variables. They're local to this procedure, whereas these are local to this event handler. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to grab these blocks and I'm going to move them here. And like I said, I'm going to get rid of this guy. I definitely don't want to use that. Okay, so my distribute message, I need to grab this message text here. So this is the message text from my parameter, and then everything else should be okay. So for each phone number in the list, okay, I'm going to set my texting phone number to that and then actually send the message. Right now I'm not going to use this parameter of the number of the sender. Later we're going to do it so we're going to put an if statement in here that makes it so the sender doesn't get their own message back. Okay, so here's my procedure, and what I need to do is come over to the procedure store. Now I can call it. Okay, so right here, and all I need to do is make sure I get the right parameters in here, the message text and the number. Okay, so the code is going to do exactly what it did before, but now when someone reads this texting.messageReceived event, they say, okay, yeah, we're going to change what's in the log, and then we're going to distribute the message to everyone. And if they want to go look at the details, they can go look at this procedure. Okay, so there's a good example of a procedure with parameters. Okay, we're going to do one more procedure, and it's going to basically be adding a number to the group. So we're going to do this part in a procedure. Okay, so I'm going to go grab another procedure, and I'm going to call this add number to group. Okay, and once again we're going to kind of we definitely need to send in the number here. So I'm going to have a parameter which is the phone number of the new member. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab this code. Alright, and like I said, you got to be careful with these parameters. I want to make sure I get this guy. Okay, so I'm going to add to the members list. I'm going to add his number, and then this is all fine. So I think we're set there with that procedure. I can just call add number to group. Okay, the number I send is going to be the number of the sender. And voila, we've got, we've simplified this block so it's not this long, extremely complicated thing. Okay, let's go back and fix this, distribute the message. So I want to, who knows, maybe I should send the text to everybody in the list, including the person that sent it originally. But let's say I don't want to just send the person their text back. Okay, so I'm going to add an if statement here. And I'm going to put it right above the for loop, but it's actually going to, for loop's going to go in there. And really what I want to say is, if this number, right, oh sorry, I'm doing this wrong. I need my for loop here, and my if is going to come here, right? I want to say if this phone number from the list, right, if it is equal to, and I'm going to use the text compare text, I could actually use equal from math as well. But what I want to do is I want to say, if the phone number, as I'm walking through the list, I'm looking at every phone number. If that is equal to, the number that sent the message in the first place, and maybe numbers are wrong. Maybe I should call this the sender's number or something. But if the sender's number is the same as the one I'm looking at in the list, then I don't want to send a text. Okay, so I actually can grab one more thing. I'm going to grab a not, right? So if, where'd my not go? Sorry. There he is. So if they're not equal, okay, then I'm going to send the text out to everybody else. All right, so to distribute a message, I know what the message is. Here's the sender's number. I'm going to say, look, let's go through everything in the list, but let's see if the sender's number is the same as the one I'm looking at in the list. If it is, don't send it. But if it's not, go ahead and send this to that person, so they'll get the number. Now there's two more things that we're going to do. They're fairly simple, but we're going to need some components. Okay, one thing we're going to need is a text-to-speech, and you can find that in the sensors. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk. We're going to speak out loud. Sorry, not in the sensors, in the media. We're going to speak out loud when someone joins. So if you're running the app, the Hub app on your phone, you'll know when someone joins. So we're going to have a text-to-speech component. We're going to also add a clock component, and that is in the sensors. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to, for every message that comes in, we'll stick a timestamp on it. Okay, so let's go back to the blocks, and what I want to do is when someone gets added, I want to go ahead and text-to-speech something about them. So I'm just going to basically say, let's say join. Okay, and so when they're added, I'm going to say something like number. Okay, so I want to say who was added, right? And I'll just speak out the number. And then on the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say was added. Let's put a space in, was added to the group. Okay, so we're actually going to hear that someone was added to the group if we're the ones running the app. Okay, so that's how we'll use the text-to-speech. Clock is a little tricky, but there's this clock.now function. Okay, there it is. But you actually, this is kind of an internal value. It's kind of not something that the user can see. Okay, so you really need to actually add use another block to make it look right. So there's all these there's a few formatting blocks. Like, so you get the time, and then what you want to do is format the thing. So we want the date and the time, so I'm going to grab that whole thing. So clock.now will tell us exactly what time it is when something happens, and this will format it so it looks good. So what we're going to do is when a message comes in, we're going to add this to what we stick in our log, right? So right now we say, okay, here we're adding the number and some number, and then what they actually sent, and we'll just add another to our join here, and let's just put that at the top. Okay, so we're basically going to timestamp at the top, and then just to be sure, let's put one more where we put a colon to separate things, just so it'll look okay. And so I'm going to grab that text. So basically, what's going to happen now is when a message comes in, we're going to show it, but we're going to show when it came in, what the number was, and what the message was. Okay, and that's how we'll use the clock. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you is we want to make the members list persistent. So if the app turns off and turns back on, we want the list of people that have joined to still be there. Okay, so now let me clean up here a little bit. So we're not going to worry about distribute message right now. So I'm going to collapse that block. And let's get this guy a little bit out of the way. Now, but when a number is added to the group and we change the list, we're going to need to store it persistently. So one thing we need to do is go back to the designer. We need one more non-visible component, and you'll find it in storage. It's called TinyDB. and that's where you can store something to a database so it'll still be there when you reopen the app. So I'm going to go to the blocks, I'm going to go to TinyDB and grab a store value. And right when we add a number to a group, okay, we're going to need to put a tag in here, and I'll just call this tag, it doesn't really matter, this is just the name of the thing in the database. So right now this is a list of our members, so I'll just call it members, and of course the list is this member list, so I'll Command C, Command V, and stick it in there. So right now when any new number is added, I'm going to add it, I'm going to store it in the database. Okay, so that was pretty simple. The other thing you have to do though is worry about, what we care about is when the app is reopened, we need to bring the stuff from the database back into the app. Okay, and typically you'll do that in screen.initialize. Okay, right when the app opens, this gets triggered. And what we're going to need to do is call TinyDB get value, kind of the opposite of store value. Okay, and it's fairly simple, but there's a little trick to using it. We definitely want to use the tag, which is members. Okay, because that's what we stored it. So the database said, oh, what's in members? Okay, I'll give you this list that got put in there before. Okay, the tricky part is, and what we want to do with what we get back is, we want to stick it into the members list variable. So what we're doing is saying, let's grab something from the database, bring it into the app, and put it in this variable members list, so we'll have it, right, for when the processing happens. Okay, the tricky part is, if there's something in the database, great, we'll grab it. But like the first time the app runs, there's no members, right? So we need to deal with that, and that's what this value of tag not there parameter is. So I'm going to get rid of this empty string. And if there's nothing in the database for a members list, we just want the members list to be the empty list, right? Nothing there yet. Okay? So I'm just going to go to lists and grab a create empty list block. Okay, so just go over this one more time. So when the app starts, call the TinyDB and say, look, get me the value with tag members. So give me a list of members if there's one there. But the first time the app runs, or if no members have joined, there's nothing there. We need to make sure this variable members list is still a list, an empty one. Okay, well, we don't want it to be a text, otherwise when we try to add stuff to it, it'll break. Okay, so anyway, with this screen initialize, get value, right? And then when you add something, make sure you store it to the database, and you can store this whole list as with one tag. That's how you deal with persistence.